All right, everybody. I am so thrilled at this time to bring in a guest who, I just can't believe that we've managed to get this person on the show. I'm very thrilled. You will know him as his character as Kraglin from the movie Guardians of the Galaxy and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. He's also Rocket. That's right. He's the on-set Rocket. And I have so many questions. And Kevin Smith is a huge fan of this man. And yesterday tweeted out a whole bunch of stuff about Mr. Sean Gunn. And I'm so happy to have you on the show. Welcome to the show, Mr. Sean Gunn.
Thank you very much. I've never met Kevin in person. We've done a couple of cons that we've both been together, and I'm friends with the guys on Comic Book Men. But the next time I see him, I have to give him a big hug because he's been very generous with his compliments.
Yesterday, did you see the tweet he put out about how...
No, this is the first I'm hearing of it.
Oh, yesterday he put out a big tweet. He retweeted what a fan said, how essentially we can't stop crying at the end of the movie when, your character... is just so upset, with the fireworks and everything, and you're just so moved.
Oh.
And I'm moved. Let me tell you something. I've had this habit of going to, I love superhero movies. Obviously, I'm a fanboy. But with your movie, with Volume 2, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, you've reached this point where I can't go to them anymore because I'm a basket case at the fucking end. And yours was particularly, I was hot. Tears were pouring down my face when Yondu, dies. Spoilers out there, folks. But, I mean, the Guardians franchise has become, for me, the ultimate franchise in the Marvel galaxy. I've been saying it replaces the need for a Fantastic Four. No offense to Fantastic Four, because it covers all those bases, the family dynamics and all that stuff. And your character, both as Rocket, but now even your Kraglin is becoming more a part of that family. And it's just amazing. I end up in tears at the end of that movie, and I've seen it several times, and I have to leave the room at certain points because it's too much. So there you go. This is going to be a dick sucking for you.
Well, I appreciate that. I like making grown men cry. That's,
and a lot of them.
That's part of my job, I guess. I honestly, I don't know. I'm really grateful for the whole thing.
Yeah.
The whole experience has been amazing, and I've been acting a long time, so to find myself to kind of stumble into such a great franchise, and not just be working with my brother, but also with all these other great people, and to be part of the whole thing is pretty great. It's not anything I would have ever imagined, or you can never guess where your career is going to head, but it's I'm certainly very very.
You deserve every bit of it. Every bit
of all of it. Well, and it's both. It's luck and opportunity and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it.
It's grabbing it with both hands, which is obvious both you and your brother did. Because here was a franchise that was so untapped. I remember when they announced it. No offense, your comic book men friends. I remember Walter, because he had a podcast back then, was like, Guardians of the Galaxy? And I'm so glad I had a podcast back then too, because I was like, you watch, this is going to be a sleeper hit. Because, I don't know, the trauma background, there's just so much that I thought, I just knew that you guys were going to pull it off, and you did.
Oh, that's good that you called it.
Yes.
I say that too. I mean, I think that I think very few people were as confident about the success of the movie as I was, because I knew, and I didn't know anything about Guardians of the Galaxy. I'd never heard of it.
Yeah.
But I knew how good the script was, and I knew, I've worked with my brother my whole life, and so just reading the material, I knew, oh wow, he is really cut out for this. This is really a perfect vehicle for all his best storytelling abilities.
Yeah.
And then reading the script and knowing how strong it was, I was just like, this movie's going to be good. I didn't know, of course, that it was going to be quite as big of a hit as it was. But I was like, it'll find its audience. People will like it, and it'll be, at the very least, I thought it would be, a nice sort of niche hit or something like that. And so I felt pretty confident. And then by the time the movie rolled around, by the time it got close to coming out, I think we knew by that point how well it was testing and how well audiences were responding, and it seemed pretty clear that it was going to be a big hit.
It was so much fun. It was so much fun. The first one was just so much fun. And yes, it had the emotional, like the anchoring of the mom at the beginning, and then to pay it off at the end with that emotional, like, oh my God, you're flashing me back. That's just brilliant storytelling, and it's amazing. And that's another thing that makes me shed a tear every time. Take my hand.
Yeah,
it's amazing. And what do you have? As I said to my wife the other day, and what do you got? You got a raccoon, a tree, a green lady. It shouldn't work, but it does. It's so brilliant. Also, here's another thing about the second movie. The second movie, like one of my a friend of ours, Indy Matthews, he's in England. He put out a review for it, and I love what he said, because he said, whatever you think Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is, you're wrong, because they got to see it like a week early or whatever in England. But and he was so right about that. And there was aspects in that, like, for instance, the relationship between the sisters is essentially a relationship of an abused family. Two girls who were abused by a father at its core. And that so, like, stands out, like, heavy. Like, the emotion of that, all the space stuff goes away, and you are just like in a real emotional core of these characters at so many points in that movie. It's just amazing. It's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. That's the thing between Gamora and Nebula where she says, you're the one who wanted to win. I just wanted a sister. That's what gets me every time. That's the part that made me choke up the first time I saw the movie.
Yeah, that interrelationship, because it's a relationship of abuse. It's an abusive triad. So and that's very heavy. That transcends all the sci-fi elements and all the and same thing with Rocket and Yondu. That we are the same guy. That cuts deep. And anyone who's had a bad father, Yondu just like pays off and says everything you've wanted the bad father to ever say to you. So it's just an amazing movie.
Well, thanks.
And I think that might be part of the reason that we were able to get you on the show, because we did have your captain on a while back, and it was a great interview. And what I loved about when we had him on, Mr. Rooker, I'm sorry, is like, because we're Kevin Smith based, we kind of wanted to talk about mall rats and that kind of crap. And you can actually kind of hear him downshift at the beginning of the interview, to be like, oh, what, we're going to talk about comedy? What? Huh? So, and now for him to have gone full circle to now be the man who says, I am Mary Poppins, y'all, is just amazing.
If you get a good interview out of Rooker, then you're a step ahead of the game, because that's kind of like herding cats, It's,
it was amazing. It was amazing.
He can be a bit of a handful.
He was very gracious to us. Maybe because we were focusing on comedy, and he doesn't get to play in that, that realm as much. And we also, don't get me wrong, I went right into Henry. I wanted to know about Portrait of a Serial Killer for sure. But yes, I'm sorry. So first question. So you have not met Kevin. Would you be in, he's doing a Jay and Silent Bob rebooted. Would you be in that movie if he asked you to?
I don't know. I mean, I certainly, I've met Jason Hughes many times. I like him. He's a great guy. I think.
Come on, say you'd consider it so I could make news.
I'm pretty busy, but I will tell you that if Kevin Smith, if I'll pick up the phone if he calls.
Oh
so
my God! There you go.
Sure, I'm interested. It's funny in the.
I mean, it's really clear he loves you. That's for sure. I mean, I've loved you since you said, boss is going to teach stuff. I mean, that's where you got me. I was on. Whoever this guy is, I love him. I didn't know anything about you yet.
Well, it's funny. Like I've been acting professionally for over 20 years, or just almost exactly 20 years actually, and it's nice to be a point in my career where people are even asking, would you do this movie or this one? It's like,
well, Gilmore Girls was
being like, I'll do any movie people want to cast me.
There you go. But Gilmore Girls is not my demo. That's all. I mean,
No, that's fine.
But I have since gone back and heard, like, my wife, who set all this up. Like, she has friends at work, and that was their touch point, Like, oh, my God, that's the guy from the Gilmore Girls. So they were all thrilled.
Oh, dude, the Gilmore Girls fans are insane.
I believe that.
They're rabid. It's amazing how a show that's not like a sci-fi or fantasy type show or whatever, where I'll go to conventions, and it's Gilmore Girls fans are almost like, Doctor Who fans or Star Trek fans or something, where they have there's this like insular Gilmore fan community that is it's excellent.
Yeah. A lot of girls. That's always good.
Yeah, that's true.
That's why the Beatles got into show business, I believe.
Plenty reason for me.
Yes. So you would. Well, there you go. I might have a little news there. Let me look at my notes. So in putting Rocket together, now traditionally, usually animation or whatever, what happens is you have the guy come in and do the voice stuff first. But I don't think that would make sense in the process of putting Rocket together as a character. So how did that work?
Not at all.
Yeah. So did you do the original dialogue and then he kind of mimic you, or was it whatever seemed?
Well, he doesn't. Here's how it works. Okay, I can think about Rocket is that we use a process to create Rocket that that no one else has used or is using to do any other similar type character. We use our own sort of system.
Gotcha.
And it came about because my brother knew going into the first movie, my brother James, of course.
Yes.
I don't think I mentioned
the
his name,
director.
The director of Guardian
Yes.
1 and 2. That he knew going into the first movie that a lot of the success of the film would hinge on whether or not Rocket worked. I know he said from the very beginning, if Rocket looks fake or stupid, this movie's going to bomb. And so he knew that he wanted. He was very. He had a heck of a lot of focus on making Rocket look as realistic as possible.
Yeah, and hair is notoriously bad in CG.
Yeah,
it's hard to do.
And he did not want actors looking at you've got this pivotal character in the movie, and he didn't want actors looking at a blank space or a tennis ball on a stick or a little light or any of those things. He really wanted to make it as realistic as it could possibly be.
Incidentally, two main characters are CG, because not just Rocket, but also Groot.
Absolutely. Yeah, and Groot is too, yeah.
So make it twice as hard.
So he asked me, I know he trusts me a lot. I think he and I have a great working relationship. I tend to know what he's looking for a lot of the times, and he can generally get out of me what he needs. We've been working together since we were kids.
Yeah, you're brothers.
And so he asked me to do. He said, I would love you to come and read Rocket, but we didn't. But I don't even know exactly what that means yet. He said, I don't know if that means you'll be doing dialogue from just beyond the camera, or if we're going to find a way, that talks about different methods. There was a ridiculous method where we had a little person who had a speaker that I was speaking out of. That was
for eyeline and stuff?
And it was really weird and didn't work. And at this point, no actor had been cast to play the role of Rocket, to do his voice yet.
Gotcha.
And that wouldn't happen until much later in the process.
Yeah.
Bradley Cooper wasn't cast until the movie was 2/3 of the way in the can, or after even.
So then that means the plan was already to sort of voice over whatever had already been done, in a sense.
Yeah.
So the plan was already that whatever the final voice would be, it's going to be done in ADR or whatever.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely. And so I got to set, a week before, right around the time we started, when we go to do a couple of weeks of rehearsal for the first movie, which is a luxury to have 2 weeks of rehearsal on it. It's one of the luxuries of working on a big budget movie.
Yeah.
But I got there and we did the table read. I read Rocket in the table read, and then we started rehearsing the first scene. And I was like, how tall is Rocket? And they showed me, and I just got down and started doing it. I basically got down on my hands and knees. I sit in essentially a squat position, and I move from there. And when I work as Rocket, my goal is always to keep my eyes where Rocket's eyes would be.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So whatever I have to do
for an eye line,
move my body accordingly. Yeah, so the
actors have something else to look at
for acting.
Yeah.
So that when they're looking at eyes, they're looking at eyes.
As opposed to
when
a tennis ball.
I do a voice and I do everything, and we play the scene that way.
But what I'm really hearing is, if you don't mind me saying this, is it sounds like that right from. I mean, if you're doing a table read, you're really starting to make choices. You're adding emotional beats to that character that aren't necessarily on the page, So,
I certainly am.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to diminish for a second what Bradley Cooper does.
No. I don't want to do that either. But what I'm saying is, you really are vesting, emotionality into this character.
Well, after we shoot it, the visual effects team then uses my body movements and my face as a visual reference for starting to animate the character. They don't use everything I do; they can always change it.
Mm-hmm.
But it serves as a starting off point, so you can tell when Rocket is shrugging or moving his hands or what he's doing with his face. If he's looking somewhere other than where other than where any of the other actors are looking, the animation team doesn't have to guess that stuff.
And
they
because
he's
he's keyframe technically. I mean, because they couldn't necessarily sync up all such a character. But I get the fact that they're filming your face and they're filming Bradley's face and keying emotionality off of that and putting it into the character digitally.
Because what I do from a performance perspective, at least like with my voice and with lines and things like that, I'm really doing that to get things from the other actors and to be there for them. It's more of in support of them. Because then after they start to put it all together, then they extract my voice. So that by the time, from what I understand, by the time Bradley gets in the booth, what he's got is then, he's got a sort of a rough draft of how the character is moving and the way the other actors are acting. But then he can do whatever he wants within that framework.
Yeah.
So his parameters are maybe a little narrower than they would be based on some of the stuff that I've done, but he's still creatively filling in those gaps.
Oh yeah.
So at the end of the day, I think that the way I look at it is that it takes a team of people to create Rocket.
Oh, most definitely.
And I'm just one member of that team, but
and a good member.
But It's been an interesting thing. I mean, I think when we started, it was mostly for the other actors and less for the visual effects team. And then they found, within the first few weeks of shooting, hey, we really like having an actor so that we can see what he's doing. We don't have to guess. And so then on the second movie, they used me for reference even more. So there were even a higher percentage of shots. You know, in the first movie, there were a bunch of action shots and stuff that I just wouldn't do. I just wouldn't be there for. But in the second movie, they were like, "No, we'd like you to do it." Like Rocket shooting the guns and the come a little bit closer scene and some other things where like he doesn't have dialogue, but I was still on set doing.
So were you actually scurrying through the trees?
I did a little bit of that. Yeah, I would do.
That was awesome, regardless who did it.
Like, obviously, I can't do the wide shot jumps.
Yeah.
But whenever they cut to a close up of Rocket doing something, I'm generally always going to be doing that stuff.
That's so cool.
And so then last year at Comic-Con...
If I could just interrupt for a second, because Brian O'Halloran from Clerks and Clerks 2 called you the American Gollum, so just so you know.
I like that. I like Brian. He's a great guy.
He is a good guy. He's actually, hey, they're roasting him tonight in New Jersey.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
That sounds easy.
Yes, yeah. And it will be the comic book men who are essentially roasting him.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, Ming Chen is a very close friend of mine.
Yeah, he's a
fun guy to kick around, too. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, so...
Sorry to interrupt.
So no, that's fine. It's fine. I'm just, the end of that story is that then at Comic-Con last year, at San Diego, Kevin Feige came and talked to me and said, "Hey, man, you know, we've got these Avengers movies coming up, and and we really, he's like, we really need you to do Rocket." And so I'm like, okay, of course I'm in. But it's been a funny experience. So now I've been working for the better part of the year on those movies, and it's cool to now be on my fourth movie as Rocket for a character that I didn't even really, I never would have thought that I'd be going and doing stuff like that. I've only ever been on camera in my career or on stage. So being this character, and then
it's like a new field. Really, you are you're helping to break into a new kind of field, which is the.
It's really fascinating work.
Yeah,
I mean, it's interesting how the whole thing. It's interesting how it all sort of plays out.
Really, I mean, I'm a geek and I'm a film geek and I'm the guy who watches all those behind the scenes stuff of, say, Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and to see the way they did it in The Hobbit, wherein you had this poor actor isolated in a green room, looking at lights and tennis balls, so they can morph that with a whole other room where everything is synced up in 3D and the movements are moving. It really has become like NASA. Mm-hmm. It's like a NASA environment. You have computers everywhere. Everything is synced. It's crazy. It's space shots.
Yeah.
So film has come a long way, and you are on the cutting edge.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I can't talk very much at all about anything we've shot on Avengers, but I can say in a very general sense, sometimes it's crazy how many different types of characters we have. There'll be different CGI characters that have different methods in how they're created.
Does Kraglin make it into Infinity Wars at all?
All I've been authorized to say is that I've been working as what I do for Rocket. I've been doing.
Okay.
I've been doing again on Infinity War. I can tell you, I wouldn't be able to comment on that either way.
Okay.
Yes,
so,
or no, I would
so
have to
for fans of Kraglin, there may be some hope there. Is what I'm hearing.
I would not say that.
Okay.
I can only. I really believe me.
Well, I love that character. I love that character.
I appreciate that.
And now, I mean, I've looked into it a little bit, and it seems you and the writer are credited as the creators of Kraglin. How does that feel to be a Marvel character creator?
Where does it say that?
In the Marvel, I was looking at a Marvel database online. Really? Yeah, in a Marvel database, you're now sort of credited as part creator of that character.
I'm very flattered by it.
Yes, you're co-creator of your character in the Marvel universe.
Wow.
So how did that? I mean, obviously, it was like. Did your brother say, "Oh, I'm going to also have you play one of the first mate"?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly that. He even called him the first mate.
Oh, so, cool!
At that time, I didn't know. He said, "I think I'm going to give him a name."
Did you know it was Michael Rooker? Yeah, that would be your captain.
Yeah, I knew it was Rooker
because they worked together before.
I've known Rooker a long time.
Yeah. Well, he was in Slither, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, and so I met him. He became friends with James through Slither, and then he would. So I met him through that, and then I used to host. James and I used to co-host these parties at my old house in Silver Lake on Sunday nights called Sunset Sunday, and we did that for a couple of years. Most Sundays we would have these parties, and if the sun went down on Sunday evening on my deck, and Rooker was a mainstay at those gatherings.
That sounds awesome.
that was about at probably, I don't know, 8-9 years ago. A lot of good memories from that time.
So what was it like working with him on set there in such a crazy environment? And how did he put up with all the makeup and all that?
Rooker's a champion about makeup. He really is. Like, I think it was one of the things that made a big impression on my brother, just from Slither, is that he had days on Slither, they didn't have the resources to have the kind of makeup team, obviously, the Guardians have. And I think he had some days on Slither where he'd be in makeup for 8+ hours.
Yeah.
And it was brutal, and he wouldn't be able to eat or drink or all these things, and he just never complained about it.
Yeah, he talked a little bit about it when we had him on.
And I think that was something, but it's a good, I think it's something, it's this like old school showbiz aesthetic of the show must go on. You've got to do it. You agreed to do it. You have to get what you're trying to get. And I know that made a big impression on my brother, and they became friends anyway. But he also knew through that, God, I can count on this guy to do anything. Yeah. And Yondu, he never complains about the Yondu makeup. He's like, oh, it's not too bad. He's like, a couple hours.
He's got to be blue.
And they do it, and he doesn't complain, even though that can't be easy to do that every single day.
Yeah.
But also, some actors have it worse.
Yeah, I was going to say.
like Gamora's got it worse. Nebula's got it worse than them, and Drax has it the worst of everybody. Yeah. So it's like they, depending on how you look at it, they all. It's a lot of commitment for a lot of those actors, and Palm now too.
But the script, the way they use Drax in Volume 2 is amazing.
It's awesome. Isn't he great?
He's amazing.
His story to me that's about one of my favorite things of the whole, the whole thing of making the movies, seeing how great Bautista is, and to see him grow as an actor. I was there for his first kind of work through before he went to, before he screen tested. Because I was there.
Just for a second, Kevin Smith was on Jericho, who's a big wrestler, and his reaction was, "Who'd have thought he could act? I've known the guy for years. I didn't know he could act."
Yeah.
So.
No kidding. Although what's funny, so people say that, and I'm like, what? Wrestling is acting.
Exactly. What else is it?
Those guys are actors.
It's very physical.
I mean, I'm surprised by how good he is, though. That's for sure. But so I saw his whole journey. I saw him audition, and I saw how much he wanted the role, and how happy he was. I know he cried when he heard he got it, and like he beat out so many. He beat out so many good actors. He got it No matter what anyone's ever read to the contrary, he was the number one choice for that role.
Wow.
By the time he got it,
because it's about chemistry.
He beat out every other actor for that role.
I understand, but I've played in bands, and that's the best way to kind of every band. Like, look at REM. Once the drummer left, everybody discounts a drummer, but once the drummer left, that band never had the same chemistry. It was never the same. They never had the hits. And eventually they retired. So, acting, all that stuff, interacting with people, it requires that chemistry.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, he's such a good guy. They really, it's such a great group of people to work with. It's nice to be able to talk about kind of more famous Hollywood actors and not have to bullshit, not have to be not to just toe the party line and be like, oh yeah, of course, he's a wonderful, and sort of keeping a lot of keeping to yourself what you shouldn't say in interviews. But the truth is that all of those people, Dave Bautista, Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Karen Gillan, Brooker, Tom Clementius, everybody, they're awesome. And they're really
I was going to say,
lovely
Chris
people
Pratt is like a
superstar.
And so is Zoe. She's in Star Trek. She's in all this great stuff. She's amazing, too. You work with some class acts.
Yeah, it's cool. And now in Avengers, good Lord.
Oh, my God, yes. And so, no, but hang on. So you're your second mate. Did you work on, I'm just going to be did you develop that character, or how did that work?
Yeah.
You just kind of knew he was going to be a flunky?
All he told me was, I knew what I had in the script. And so I knew that he had a handful of lines here and there. I knew we were going to play with stuff.
Captain's going to teach stuff, I'm pretty sure, is your first line in the movie. If it's not, man, that's the line to me that just says, it tells you everything about your character.
But it's not my first line in the movie, but it's certainly by far the most memorable.
Yeah, it says almost everything about your character right there. It's like, I'm a loyal flunky, and I'm not all that bright.
What's funny is that he is that we actually experimented with that throughout the film. So there was a lot of times when Rooker would say something, and it would be a call and response, where I would then repeat what he just said. But they ended up not using it for time purposes and just because they didn't all work, and so it wasn't.
Yeah.
You really need three good ones for a comedy beat.
That's right.
For a comedy beat to work, you need at least three strong ones. And so
that's actually in the second movie, isn't it? Isn't there a point where someone says blah 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 blah, and you need three beats for comedy or something like that in the delivery? I can't remember where I remember that from something.
I don't know.
It's got to be from Guardians, because where else would that be from?
Well,
oh no! Actually, you know what? You know what it was from? It may have been. It may have been from what's his name? It may have been from Doctor Strange. Maybe.
Oh right.
Because I watched that recently too.
Oh, it is from Doctor Strange.
Is it?
It is from Doctor Strange. It's. I think that's. I think.
Yeah. Because it's like
you're right though.
Because I recently.
I think you're right towards the end of it. And
what these two gentlemen are trying to remember is a segment from Rick and Morty, the first episode of the third season. Here it is.
Okay, have fun in what's left of my brain. I'm going to transfer to yours. Oh, there's not enough room for all my genius, so I'm leaving you with my fear of wicker furniture, my desire to play the trumpet, my tentative plans to purchase a hat, and 6 years of improv workshops. Comedy comes in threes.
It's a trap! Abort! We never left it!
I have to say, I did almost I made it all the way through phase 2 of the Marvel movies in a row, just to kind of feel the vibe.
Wow.
Yeah, it was nuts. But I wanted to try it. I went through them all at the time,
awesome.
So.
That's wild. In any event, the only one that ended up staying in the movie was the one that really worked. And the Captain's Got to Teach stuff, and that's great. I mean, that's how editing is. I mean, I didn't really know exactly who Kraglin was until the first movie came out, because we played with so many different things that you don't know in the edit where it's going to land. And a lot of takes, I played Kraglin much more almost like a maniac, like he was a little bit of
a Ravager,
like he was a little bit nuts.
Yeah.
And it just turned out that just didn't work.
Yeah.
You know, and we had enough of the rest of it to be like, this guy's more of a soldier.
He's a mush, too. Yeah.
He's tough, but he's almost there's almost a little bit of a sweetness to him.
Shit, he was damn conflicted in the second one.
We had then, by that point, my brother and I had talked a little bit about backstory, and then I knew, because in the second movie he has an arc, so that's much more. Then you can't vary around, you can't play around quite as much. You need to
But he's there in all the right moments too. That's the thing I like about that. He's there at all the right moments, either to sort of give you an emotional resonance, or to actually back it down a little and say, "Oh, we're getting too intense here. Let's take it down a comedy beat." You know, so you're like, there was a cut scene that I wish they didn't cut, which was you explaining the frickin' not the iPod. I'm sorry. What was it? It was the Zune. The Zune. Oh my God! What a great pull, by the way. Explaining the Zune to him. That is some brilliant stuff where you guys do that.
I have never seen that scene. I remember shooting it, but I haven't seen it. I just moved into this house here in Atlanta, and I don't have.
It's in the outtakes. I got it digitally.
The Blu-ray player up last night, so maybe I'll check it out after I get off the phone with you here.
It's even on the digital stuff. Because I got it from Amazon, so it's on their bonus footage. So and it's a great scene. I love that, and it's funny because we just watched Defenders, and I have a friend who works on the Marvel Netflix stuff. He's a set dresser, so we have him on and talk about the show. You know, after they finally air, and that was the one thing we did sort of notice about the Defenders, as opposed to the rest of the Marvel Netflix shows. It had some more of that humor that was in Guardians that, you know, just felt like that. And so it felt more like it was a Marvel Universe joined product a little more, the Defenders did, than because it had that same sort of sense of humor that you guys put in. Like, oh, what was it? That's my favorite knife.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that kind of stuff where it's just like, where did that come from? And why did they put that in? But it's, exactly.
I just learned. Because a lot of those funniest lines, most of the funniest lines that are improvised, like that one, are actually improvised by my brother from behind the camera. So he feeds us. He feeds us, not all of them, but but he feeds us lines to say. You know, like that was my favorite knife was his. Captain's Got to Teach stuff was his. Mary Poppins was his. Those are all lines he comes up with. But he just told me that he has a script of alternate lines with him. So some of those are only new to us when we're in the moment.
Gotcha.
He's been thinking about them. He's a maniac when it comes to preparation.
Gotcha.
So he's been thinking about them already, and he'll have a list of like possible alternate lines that he throws at us in the moment.
Is he a drummer? Is your brother a drummer? Is he a drummer?
A drummer?
Yeah, because he's a drummer in the video you guys made.
Oh gosh, no.
Okay, no. So he doesn't play drums.
Thank God he wasn't a drummer. I didn't want a brother who was a drummer growing up.
I have a theory that drummers make great directors because they.
Oh, is that right?
Because I'm a drummer and I direct.
Understand rhythm and taste and all that.
Yeah, and you can't play alone. Nobody. I mean, when you play alone, no one wants to hear you. So you have to learn to play with other people. So in general, I think drummers make good directors.
Interesting.
Just look at Dave Grohl. His first documentary was awesome.
Now, is that borne out by truth? Who's that true about?
Dave Grohl, I can point to. His first documentary was awesome. Sound City.
Okay.
I'm also a documentary filmmaker and a director, so I'll say me.
Oh, I got it. I see.
Of course, yes, it is a self-influenced theory.
Enjoy talking to you. I do have to get going, but anytime, I particularly enjoy interviews like this when we can just kind of talk about whatever strikes us, and I don't have to
Me too.
feed you the line of like, I'm glad you didn't ask me, what's Chris Pratt like in real life?
Please, no. I'm sure he's a good guy.
The answer is that he smells like victory.
Yeah, like victory.
No, I appreciate talking to you.
I appreciate you coming on, and I'm so honored to have you on. And when Kevin hears about this, Kevin kind of knows. I sent him an email, and that may have been why he tweeted that out yesterday. I don't know. I'd like to think so. But, yeah.
I love it. I'm going to give
appreciate
Kevin
it.
a big kiss when I see him.
Thank you. And give him one for me, too.
All right. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, man. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Oh, my God, everybody. That's right. Sean Gunn! Woohoo! Yay! I can't even find my applause. Here they come.